Hello students, I am VLN Swarupini, lecturer in biochemistry from Sri Venkateswara College of Arts and Sciences, which is affiliated to Arikavi Nanaya University, Rajahmundry. Now I would like to discuss about third BSc Biochemistry elective paper, that is Basic Microbiology. From this topic we are seeing the unit 3 topics, and we have already discussed most of the unit 3 topics, and we are going to see the rest of the topics. Let's start the class. So in the previous class we have discussed about the bacterial disease typhoid. Now let's see the another bacterial disease, that is cholera. Cholera means it is nothing but the infection caused by Vibrio cholerae. It will be caused by Vibrio cholerae, and the major symptom is diarrhea. Okay, so let's see about it. So let's see about this cholera. So this is a infectious disease that causes severe watery diarrhea, which can lead to dehydration and even death if untreated. Okay, so here this cholera is a infectious infectious disease of a bacteria called Vibrio cholerae, and this will cause a severe watery diarrhea. It will cause a severe watery diarrhea, and if the patient is not treated with proper medication, what happens? Dehydration will be high and that patient will die of dehydration. Okay, so here the let's see firstly about what is Vibrio cholerae and what are the characteristics of this Vibrio cholerae. Okay, and this Vibrio cholerae, Vibrio, here Vibrio means it is a comma shaped bacteria. So while discussing about the bacteria and while discussing the shapes and structures of bacteria, we have seen this point. Vibrio bacteria are the bacteria which are in comma shape. So this is a Vibrio cholerae, Vibrio bacteria which causes cholera. So here Vibrio is a comma shaped bacteria, and this is a gram negative bacteria. This is a gram negative comma shaped bacteria, and this particular Vibrio cholerae is also a facultative anaerobic bacilli bacteria. So it is a bacilli means rod shaped, and facultative anaerobe, which can only live in the presence of oxygen. And this particular Vibrio cholerae has a flagellum at one cell pole as a pili. So just see the diagram here. This is the Vibrio cholerae, comma shaped bacilli bacteria. This is okay. Sometimes it will be in a comma shape, and generally it is a rod shape. Okay, so here it contained a pili. So this is the genetic material. Okay, so this is a Vibrio cholerae diagram. So motility is mostly based on this flagellum, which is present on the polar side of this particular Vibrio cholerae. Okay, so this particular bacteria will show motility due to the presence of this flagellum, and this particular Vibrio cholerae shows both respiratory and fermentative metabolism. That means basically it is a aerobic bacteria, but sometimes it can also withstand fermentation metabolism. Okay, so this coming to this Vibrio cholerae, it multiplies, it can also multiply freely in the water. That means multiplication is also seen in the water. They freely multiply in water. And if you see the size of this Vibrio cholerae, it is 1 to 3 nanometers length and 0.5 to 0.8 millimeters in diameter. So 1 point. So if you see the diagram here, it is it is 1 to 3 nanometers in length. The length will be 1 to 3 nanometers, whereas is diameter is 0.5 to 0.8 millimeters. Okay, this is the size of this particular Vibrio cholerae. And most importantly, this particular Vibrio cholerae is a non-sporing bacteria. Non-sporing bacteria. What is sporing? Here, bacteria during unfavorable conditions, what it will do? It will form spores during unfavorable condition, and whenever the favorable conditions are present, this spore is again, it will be converted into new bacteria. Okay, so the process of sporing is not commonly seen in this Vibrio cholerae bacteria. And now let's see how this is transmitted. So we all know this is also a feco-oral mode of transmission. So whatever the water or food which is contaminated with this particular bacteria Vibrio cholerae, so that particular water or food when come in contact with any individual, it will cause this cholera disease. So this is feco-oral mode of transmission is commonly seen. So here this cholera is not commonly seen in all countries. Mostly in the developing countries this cholera is seen, and in the developed countries mostly this is not at all seen. Okay, so mostly whatever the disease we have discussed till now, all the diseases are related to the sanitation and hygiene. So if we maintain high profile hygiene and sanitation, we can keep away all these diseases. Okay, so coming to transmission mode, this is a fecal-oral mode, and mostly see this cholera is seen in the developing countries. In developed countries, there will be we cannot see this cholera in common way. Okay, now let's see how this particular Vibrio cholerae is infected. Okay, so whenever contaminated food or water is consumed by any person, that particular person will be infected with this particular Vibrio cholerae. So let's see, when consumed contaminated food or water, they enter the human body. What? This Vibrio cholerae. And after consuming, most bacteria do not survive the acidic conditions of the human stomach, but some bacteria survive and exit the stomach and reach the small intestine. So here this Vibrio cholerae can also it grows in the small intestine. So the mechanism that our body is holding is very uh, perfect for the elimination of bacteria. Okay, so here whatever the acidic condition, which is localized in the stomach will destroy almost all the bacteria, that is Vibrio cholerae bacteria, but few they survive this acidic conditions and pass through the stomach into the small intestine. Okay, so what they do after reaching the small intestine is they penetrate through the thick mucus that lines the small intestine to reach the intestinal walls where they can attach. So here we know our intestinal wall is completely covered with mucosal lining. So this particular Vibrio cholerae will penetrate through the mucous membrane to reach the intestinal wall, and at that intestinal wall it will attach to the intestinal wall. Okay, once the bacteria reaches the intestinal wall, they no longer need the flagella to move. So we know this Vibrio cholerae motion is carried by this flagellum. And now what happened? This Vibrio cholerae reached the small intestine and it penetrated to the through this mucous membrane and reached small intestinal wall, and it attached to the wall. So after attachment there is no need of movement, and at the same time there is no need of flagellum. So this flagella will be removed. And on reaching intestinal wall, this Vibrio cholerae starts producing the toxic proteins that give the infected person a watery diarrhea. So here this particular Vibrio cholerae will synthesize toxic proteins by which the person infected will have this watery diarrhea. This carries the multiplying new generation of bacteria out into the drinking water, and incubation period of Vibrio cholerae ranges between few hours to 5 days. So incubation period means from the entry of the antigen to the observation of the first symptom. The period between these two is called as incubation period, and for this Vibrio cholerae within 5 days. So if you see the diagram here, hope you can observe this diagram. So here what happens is, this is the Vibrio cholerae, Vibrio bacteria, and it will attach to the small intestine and it will produce toxins. And what these toxins will do, they attaches to that area and they will activate ATP, the secondary metabolite CAMP. Okay, so by activating this cyclic adenosine monophosphate, which is a secondary metabolite, it will increase the secretions of chlorine. More secretion of chlorine is observed, and this chlorine will enter in higher amounts into the membrane, into the small intestine. So then what happens is, chlorine concentration will be high, and on the other hand lesser absorption of sodium is observed, and by entry of calcium into the membrane in a higher concentration along with this chlorine, what happens is bicarbonates, water, potassium, everything will be reaching the intestine, small intestine, okay, along with this chlorine. Then what happens is, by imbalance in the electrolytes, what happens is, watery diarrhea will be caused. So whatever the ions which are present in the body, they are diffused into the small intestine along with this chlorine. So because of which watery diarrhea is commonly seen in this particular cholera disease. Okay, so this is how the patients are lead to the watery diarrhea. Now let's see about the pathogenicity of this particular Vibrio cholerae. So this Vibrio cholerae accumulates in stomach and starts producing toxins, and produced toxins will bind to the G protein coupling receptor and inactivate GTPase. Okay, so they bind to the small intestine and produce toxins, we know. And these toxins, what they do is they bind to G protein coupled receptor, and this will lead to inactivation in the GTPase enzyme. Later, by inactivating this GTPase, increase in CAMP occurs. So cyclic adenosine monophosphate will be high, and it will activate ion channels. So here NaCl influx into intestinal lumen to drag water into lumen. So water, and along with water, electrolytes will also be entering this lumen, and release of large quantities of electrolytes and bicarbonates will follow. And by presence of higher amounts of water and electrolytes and bicarbonates, watery diarrhea is observed and causes dehydration to the patient. So here whatever the water, electrolytes, bicarbonates present in our body will be pulled to the intestinal lumen by the increase in the cyclic adenosine monophosphate. So then these, whatever the lumen is containing water, electrolytes, bicarbonates, these will be excreted in the form of watery diarrhea. Okay, so this is all what happens in the intestine. So now let's see signs and symptoms. So commonly cholera means nothing but of diarrhea. Along with diarrhea, in few cases vomiting, mild fever, stomach pain, dehydration and electrolyte imbalance, rice watery diarrhea, that means white form of diarrhea, are commonly seen. So along with diarrhea, vomiting, mild fever, stomach pain, dehydration and electrolyte imbalance are commonly seen. And in rare conditions is rice water diarrhea is also seen. And in severe cases, patient's skin may turn bluish gray. So in severe and chronic conditions, skin of the patient may turn into bluish gray, and sunken eyes, dry mouth are commonly seen. And here, due to this cholera, 10% of the body's weight is mostly lost. And renal failure means kidney failure is commonly observed. So see the schematic representation here. So ingestion of Vibrio cholerae, that means entry of Vibrio cholerae into the body, resistant to gastric acids, colonize the small intestine, that means formation of colonies at the small intestine, and secretion of enterotoxins, and enterotoxin bind to intestinal cells, chloride channels will be activated, and release of large quantities of electrolytes and bicarbonates into the lumen, and fluid hypersecretion, diarrhea will be caused and causes dehydration. So this is the step by step method, step by step reactions that are seen in the body during this cholera infection. So if you draw this type of schematic representations, it will be very easier for you and for the examiner also. So here, if you show this kind of representations, you can get a better score. Okay, so now let's see about the diagnostic methods. So this clinical, coming to clinical diagnosis, severe watery diarrhea and vomiting, and it is in some coastal areas. This kind of diseases are caused by eating shellfishes also. So in that conditions, what diagnostic methods we should follow? The first one, laboratory diagnosis, is culture method. Okay, culture method. So in the culture method, what we'll do? Vibrio cultures often detected by dark field or phase contrast microscopy. So here we'll collect the sample from the patient and we'll take suitable media and will grow those samples in the media, which will result in the formation of Vibrio cholerae colonies. Okay, and these colonies will be observed under field microscope, phase contrast microscope, dark field microscope, or phase contrast microscope. And here these organisms will be motile, appearing like shooting stars, and mannitol salt agar or eosin methylene blue will be used for the culturing of this Vibrio cholerae bacteria. So what is the medium here? Mannitol salt agar along with eosin methylene blue to identify this cholerae is seen. And while observing these colonies under dark field microscope or phase contrast microscope, we can see a motile organisms which appear like shooting stars. Okay, and when plated on sucrose dishes, yellow colonies appear confirming cholera presence. So here sometimes yellow color colonies will also be produced, and by visualization, by just seeing these yellow colonies, we can confirm the cholera presence. Okay, and the other technique is molecular technique, like PCR. PCR means polymerase chain reaction. So here PCR is just once. We can simply carry this PCR to identify this particular Vibrio cholerae. And the other method is by using one-step dipstick test for rapid antigen detection of Vibrio cholerae. So when the cholera is commonly seen in any area in higher amounts, then this kind of one-step dipstick test will be carried. So immediately after dipping the strip into the sample, we can detect the antigen, and we can simply confirm the cholera disease. And also monoclonal antibody based stool testing can also be easily done regarding this cholera diagnosis. And coming to treatment, here this dehydration is the major aspect which leads to death in the patient. So here oral rehydration therapy should be given. So oral rehydration therapy should be given. So up to 80% of the people can be treated successfully through proper administration of oral rehydration salt. So during the cholera, what happens? Through watery diarrhea, most of the water of the patient's body and electrolytes will be lost by the patient. So 80% of the people can be treated by giving them back. That means rehydration. So dehydration means lack of water, and here rehydration means again giving water to that particular patient. And along with water, we are also we should also give salts. We should also give that patient with sufficient amount of electrolytes. Okay, so here salts means nothing but these electrolytes. Okay, and in very severe dehydration patients, they require administration of intravenous fluids and appropriate antibodies like antibiotics like ciprofloxacin. So here, to increase the Vibrio cholerae bacteria infection, we should use ciprofloxacin as the antibiotic, and we should also give intravenous fluids, okay, like through saline, okay. And also here vitamin and micronutrients should also be supplied to the patient. So here the most important treatment for this cholera is oral rehydration therapy by giving liquids and electrolytes, and in few cases what we should do is we should also give intravenous fluids by the severity of the patient's condition, and also we should give antibiotics like ciprofloxacin to treat the infection that is caused by Vibrio cholerae. And patients who are very ill, we should also give vitamins and micronutrient supplements in severe cases. So this is about cholera, how we can treat this cholera and all, okay. So write the notes, students. If you have any doubts, please contact me, and also write this kind of flowcharts for the diseases, okay. While writing these kind of flowcharts in the exams, you will have a chance of getting better marks for the essays, okay. Thank you, students. If you have any doubts, please contact me. Write the notes as soon as possible. Thank you, students.